We'll wait for a few more minutes. We don't want to have a leaderless group. It would be like the headless horseman, you know.
Worse than that. You guys should probably get the prize for the most faithful group. Your enrollment's always amazing. You really should get the prize. I haven't figured what that prize is yet. Because I was going through attendance stuff today when I was looking at Vincent.
That's because she's mean and they're
Yeah. You know the truth in huh?
they're scared to skip.
I actually felt bad because one gal, like, should I still come to church?
Yeah. I have. Good evening, folks. I love kids most of the time. But sometimes those darn little twerps about this size will ask a question. Oh, no, I mean, little, real little. They'll ask a question and it's like, I don't know. You're a what? A first grader, and you asked me a question that I have no idea about. And so I'll tell you, and it has to do with the resurrection. And I'll tell you a little bit later what that question was. But it's like, I don't know. Indeed, I've only been a pastor for decades. Tonight we're going to talk about sort of the antithesis. Do you guys know what the antithesis means? What that word means? Antithesis. Anti meaning against, or thesis, the proposition of truth. Antithesis. This is like the other side of what we talked about last week. The antithesis. Do you remember what the topic was last week? What was it? Death. And we had two guests among us. Who were those two guests? Funeral directors. And the task of a funeral director is what? What's that? You over here. Remember what a funeral director does? Yeah, it helps make plans and help families through a time of death. And they help with that preparing of the body and funeral and prayer service and the burial. So if that's one thing, what would be the antithesis of that? Resurrection, life, hope, good news, good stuff, faith, Jesus. And that's what we're talking about tonight. Last week, Wednesday, we talked about death and funerals because it was Holy Week and we were getting ready to observe when Jesus was crucified. Big deal in the Christian faith. Tonight is even a bigger deal. That's the resurrection And so we had on Sunday our celebration, and you all had your celebration of Easter. So that's what we're going to talk about this evening. Do you guys know what this? I'm an awful drawer, but I'm going to draw something I think even you guys can figure out what my drawing is. Let's see. What is it? What? Oh no, you can't even tell a really simple drawing on mine. It's supposed to be a target. I'm sorry, and the reason I would draw you this target is the Bible tells us that the resurrection of Jesus is at the very center of our Christian faith. That there's a lot of things about our Christian faith, and this might be going to church, and this ring might be going to, giving our offerings and stewardship, and this might be Christmas, and this might be Thanksgiving, and this might be, and there's so many other things, prayer and all these other things. But at the very center, at the very core, at the very most important thing is what? The resurrection of Jesus. The Apostle Paul, in chapter 15 of 1 Corinthians, when he was writing, he really told the story of the resurrection the very first. Before Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Bible scholars says this was the first account of the resurrection of Jesus, and it is this. I pass on to you a matter of first importance, what I have received myself. That Jesus Christ, who we knew was crucified, died, and on the third day was resurrected. The Apostle Paul tells us a matter of first importance. That's what he calls the resurrection of Jesus. It's like the center. It's not out here, man, if I had a bow and arrow or whatever it is I was shooting, I'd be all over the map. I would not be here. And so many people live their life missing the point of faith. Missing the point of our Christianity. And that is Jesus crucified and risen. If there was no resurrection, Paul says, we are the most to be pitied people there is. But in fact, there is a resurrection. There is a resurrection. So, the resurrection is the most important thing. Now, I need 12 strong young men to come over here. I need 12. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Come on up right here. Come on, real strong. 7, 8, 9, 10. Come on up. I need 2 more. Okay, those 2 in the back. Come on up. Okay, be right there. Now I need, just stay right there. Yep.
I'm number 12.
Okay, number 12. Then I need 3 young gals, young women. 1, 2, 3. Come on up, you 3. You can be right here. I need 1, and I'm looking for the whitest shirt here. What's that? Will you? And if you'll stand right here. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to talk through the Easter story. We're going to kind of like, in a really not crude, but in a really non-professional way, act it out. So, Jesus these guys, guess who these 12 guys are? Who do you think? The disciples of Jesus. But I intentionally put 12 up here, but one of you, would you sit down, please? 12 minus 1 equals what? 11. Nope, you need to just sit down back in your group. Back in your group, please. These 12, and then this guy, we'll talk about this guy in a little bit. These 11 guys saw Jesus crucified. Jesus was their main guy. These guys for 3 years, 3 full years, lived with Jesus, traveled with him. Jesus taught with them. He ate with them, everything. They knew him, and Jesus knew them very, very well. These 3 young women were good friends of Jesus. They hung around him. They were not the disciples because it was a different culture. But these gals, along with these guys, believed that Jesus was the Messiah, the Savior, the Son of God. They believed that. So these folks and a whole bunch of other townspeople saw Jesus nailed to the cross, lifted up, died there. And then these, particularly the women in this, you guys, I called you strong and brave young men. You guys were quaking in fear. Quaking meaning because you were afraid. The strong ones, the faithful ones, the unafraid ones were the women. That's the way it was in the story as the Bible tells it. Because these guys were locked away in a room, hiding. Very early, Jesus, remember what day of the week Jesus died on, was crucified? Friday. He was dead Saturday. Very early in the very next day, Sunday, we call Sunday the first day of the week. Very early, the sun wasn't even up. I don't know what time that happens to be, maybe 5 a.m., 4:30 a.m., I don't know. These women went to the tomb. And that's why we have this young angel. Because, come on over this way. This is like the tomb. I'd have you get in there, but you don't want to get underneath there. No. The Bible tells us that early in the morning, these women went to the tomb to do what? What's that? Anoint Jesus. It was like putting some perfume and some spices on him to prepare his body for permanent death, permanent burial. That's what you had. You had like your arms full of that stuff. And you approach that place. Go ahead and just get closer to the tomb there, gals. And this angel is sitting where they thought the body of Jesus would be. And this angel says, he is risen. Can you say that? Yeah, good job. Like, way to really get into it. He is not here. He's risen. Now go tell the disciples that he's not here and that he will meet you later on. So these 3 brave women, depends on which gospel you read. Which one did you read on Sunday, Pastor Dan? Mark. When you read the Bible story, so here, gals, the way Mark tells what you gals did, you saw the empty tomb, you heard this guy, the angel. You go, and the angel says, go tell what you've seen. And they went away, go walk away. And they said nothing. They said nothing. That's the way Mark tells the story. Then go back up there. Because the way Gospel of John says it, it's interesting how they tell just a little bit different way. The Gospel of John says they hear the angel, says he's not here, he's risen, go tell. These women go and run to where these guys are, the disciples. So you go and tell them he's risen, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you can leave for a minute. Who of you wants, will you be Peter? Peter, kind of like the head disciple, goes in and looks there and sees it just as the disciples said. Like it is, like, yep, is he there? Nope, not there. Nope, not there. Some accounts say that Peter encounters Jesus out in the garden, does not recognize him. Doesn't recognize him at all. So y'all can be seated. The point, of these people is that the tomb is empty, the body's not there, the tomb is empty, there's an angel in its place, and the angel says he's not here, he's risen, go tell the disciples, and that Jesus will meet you. And he does. The resurrection event has to do with the fact that Jesus' body, who was crucified, dead as can be, was by the power of God resurrected. Then the Apostle Paul talks about how many different people saw the resurrected Jesus. First it was Peter. Who was Peter? Where did Peter sit down to? Yeah, there you go. Paul says, first Peter, stand up. And then the other 11 disciples saw Jesus, the resurrected Jesus. Stand up, disciples, wherever it was you were. And then the women, where did the women go? Please stand up. There you go. Because these are witnesses of the resurrected Jesus. But then Paul says, at least 500 other people saw him. The rest of us stand up, representing the 500. And then Peter adds this detail. He adds this detail. He said, you know, folks who are reading this, that I've just written this, some of these witnesses, some of these 500 are still alive, and you can go talk to them if you want. There were people who had witnessed Jesus' resurrected body, still had his nail holes in his hand, the pierced hole from the sword in his side. You can be seated for a minute. And then in order to make the point, where's my eraser? Paul wanted to make sure that people were not mistaken. As he wrote this account of the resurrection of Jesus, Paul wanted to make sure that nobody was mistaken, that this was no hoax. He had all of these people who were witness, and then he told about how Jesus talked with them. He ate with them, ate meals with them, multiple meals. He traveled with them. All after he was crucified and resurrected. Paul wants us to know it's real. And then he wants us to know what that means for us. And that's where we get to a video clip that these guys are going to put, by the power of technology, they are going to push a button and we're going to see.
Peter. Zarik.
Empty means nothing. It means despair. It means just awfulness, except when it doesn't. Empty tomb means life and hope and joy and growth and salvation. Unbelievable. Empty means all that nothingness until God takes the empty and changes it all around. What are the signs of Easter that you see in front of you? What? The cross. What about that cross? I thought the cross is where Jesus died. What about it? The cross is what? Empty. Huh. What else do you see up there that exudes Easter? Flowers. What does it mean? What do flowers have to do with Easter? Life and growing and all that kind of stuff. Things that are dead are not green, are not growing, but things that are living and full of life do. What else do you see up there that exudes Easter? Do you see anything else? The cross, we talked about the flowers, the color white, maybe. I picked out the white angel lady. The Bible tells us that that angel that was in the tomb was covered in white. Purity, life, goodness. And then I see, one that we forget constantly of the proof or of the visual of Easter is you all. I look at you guys and I see Easter. Not that you're like so perfect people, although most of you are just like darn close to perfect. Yeah. But when I look at people, I see life, I see hope. I see you guys are proof of Easter, the resurrection, because if Jesus had not been resurrected, that little Jesus movement of 12 of you 12 fearful, frightened men here, you would have just disappeared off the face of the earth. We would not know the name Jesus, except that the resurrection emboldened these 12 people. 11 plus. What happened to that other one? Why did I say 12? One of you sit down. You know why? Is what? Betrayed him. What was his name? Judas. Ha, nice try. Judas. An awful thing. And so later on, that group of disciples, 11, had to toss a coins, or roll dice actually is what they did, to decide who was going to replace him. And a man by the name of